Dinghy cruising is the ultimate in getting away from it all. Alone in a small boat, it's the best way to explore backwaters and camp on the boat under canvas and in isolation. Later on, I'll be hunting down some dinghy cruisers to find out why it's so special. In the workshop, I'm restoring a dinghy, but this one has spent its life racing rather than cruising. Over the last few weeks, I've stripped out the Sharpie and twisted her back into shape, and at the moment I'm replacing her rather tired deck beams. That's for the last beams in the foredeck to come out. Like the other ones, it's all a bit ropey, so we've put new ones in. Slightly larger one here, it's a bit fatter because the mast goes here, and then smaller ones as I get further forward. Now on this boat, every beam has a different camber. So what we've done is we've set up a string line here, and that marks off the crown height all the way through. The first thing we have to do is measure down from this string down to the shear, and the shear is this bottom edge that we've planed in. That's the top edge of the boat. So once we've got that measurement, we can add on a bit of extra depth for the actual thickness of the beam, say 2 inches. Then we can mark out a nice new beam on a nice new piece of oak, cut it out and fit it. Alright, very roughly we want a piece about, let's say, 38. Our old friend the winding stick. You can stick that on there, up from this bottom edge to the string. That's about 2 1/4. And it just so happens, there's our 38, it'll come out of there nicely. This piece of oak is 1 1/8", and we actually want to finish at 3/4, so we've got quite a lot to take off. To get the wood down to size, I'm using this thicknesser, which is a great piece of kit, and a lot quicker than planing by hand. Well, that's only one pass, but you can see how lovely and smooth it comes out in just one go. That's not good enough to varnish or paint, we'd sand it up first, but from that to that, it's magic, isn't it? Chair. Why stand when you can sit? Right, we want to find the middle. Half of 39 is 19 1/2. That gives us a centre. The next job is to create the curved top edge of the deck beam, requiring a bit of geometry. First, I've divided the timber into 2 and drawn on the 2 1/2 inch height of the deck beam. Right, this is the technical bit. Watch closely. Well, don't watch too closely. What we've got to do is strike a little arc from that point there. This is our height of our camber, so that goes to there. We can strike an arc. It's better if you've got a compass with a pencil in it, but I haven't. And the next thing to do is to divide this arc into 4 equal segments. One, 2, 3, 4. We're now going to spread that curve out along this width. So we divided it into 4. We now divide the baseline into 4 and transfer those heights along, and we'll spread that curve from being this big to being this big. 7/8. One there. Another 4 7/8, which is about 4 7/8, which is there. And hopefully our last gap should be 4 7/8. And it is. Right. Goodie. So the next thing to do now is with adjustable square. So our first height is what we do a little upstand there, mark off that height there, and the same height of course is going to be on this side of the curve. So we do a little upstand there, fill that in. Height number 2. Oops, it's about that. That's going to go there. 2, 1 there. So just keep that nice and straight along the top. Once all the points are plotted, I'm using a fairing batten to join them together. It's important that you get it running straight, parallel with the top before you try and pull the ends down, otherwise it will look dodgy. We'll pull the end down to, that's our point there, on the baseline. Now we get just picking up on that one nicely. Here we go. Also good, we just missed that knot as well, which is quite nice. Same on the other side. That'll do, cramp off. And there, you can see a nice, fair curve. The Sharpie is what's known as a one design. A one design is a class of boat that's been built to a strict set of rules. There are optimists, mirrors, 420s, sunbeams, and many other fleets you see racing around the coast of Britain. A one design is exactly the same as its brother or sister, therefore you can race on an equal footing. And when every boat's built, it's measured. Judges come along, check its length, its width, the sail area, the length of the spars, and even its weight. Now this Sharpie has had quite a checkered career, and I doubt very much whether she'll be that competitive again. However, by the time we finish, she'll be a good strong boat and provide hours and hours of pleasure. The last thing you're looking for in a dinghy cruiser is a competitive edge. I've come over to France to meet Jean-Louis Grenier, a sailor who has abandoned his large cruising boat for a small dinghy.
And we said maybe there's another way of cruising, which is these small boats with Drascombe, which we saw all over the place in England. So we bought one, and we realised that that was the kind of cruising we wanted, because you avoided all the hassle of marinas, expenses, complex material that always goes wrong. But another thing as well, which is maybe more interesting, is that we realised that the most interesting part of the sea is where the sea meets the land. All the little creeks, and that's where the water is very beautiful. And most cruisers cruise from marina to marina offshore.
In Norway as well, we were able to go into little creeks off fjords and so on, where no big boats could go. So it's quiet, it's beautiful, and well, it's just paradise, I think.
Far from the madding crowd.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So what are the features of the cockpit for the single-handed sailor?
Because of the balance between the sails, the boat is extremely stable on course, particularly with my wonderful autopilot, the top of technology, which you put here, there, okay, and just leave your boat like this. Then you adjust 1 knot or 2 knots, and I've been for a couple of hours sitting in front there, just having your meal, a little nap and things like that.
Jean-Louis' boat is a Drascombe camper cruiser, which has just been launched and is the ultimate in small boat cruising. So if somebody was looking for a dinghy to use for cruising, what are the basic design features that they should look for?
I think that trailability is essential. The boat must be put into the water easily, otherwise there's no point. It has to remain simple as well. Very stable. It must be versatile. We have got 3 ways of moving on the water, which is the sails first, engine, which is absolutely essential because you find yourself in currents and then you can't row against them. But rowing is essential as well for the fun and also because it's safety. When you are crossing the shipping lanes, if your engine fails and there's no wind, you've had it.
So after a day on the French coast, Jean-Louis took down the sails to row into the shore and camp for the night. So where are the oars? Ah, very cunning.
Heavy, but now shall we go straight here? Will that be all right?
Go over there. It's a little bit steeper there. We might be able to get off without getting wet feet. The ingenious canopy means that half of it can be put up while sailing in bad conditions. Hey, that's some cover.
Let's fix it here.
So what about the rear canopy?
Well, the principle for the rear canopy is the same.
Both the front and back sections can be put up to create a large sleeping area. And it's easy to imagine, at the end of the day, being tucked up a creek in your own little world. In the workshop, the top surface of the deck beam for the Sharpie is almost complete. And the bandsaw leaves really nice little horizontal marks, and hopefully they should be cut nice and square. So if you watch really carefully, just take those out. They give you a good guide as to how square you're keeping. Now, although we've marked it out, very important, keep eyeballing it, check for any lumps, bumps, humps and other nasties, but that's perfect. Next thing to do is change this beam that's got a curved top and a straight bottom into a beam that's got a curved top and a curved bottom as well. Now our beam here is going to be 2 1/4, so we set that up and we're going to run off about there, hold it on, here we come. Oops, got that cramp there. There we go. To finish off the inside curve to the line, I'm using a spoke shave, basically a plane for curved surfaces. Now we've got a beam worth fitting, let's go and fit it. Right, this is where our beam's got to go, in there. Now to mark it out, what you do is you put it upside down, because what you want is the maximum width of the boat, which is these outer corners here. And then we sight straight down and make a little width mark. And without touching it, do the same on the other side. And like most things in boats, there's nothing that's 90 degrees. So there's 2 bevels, that's 2 angles we've got to put on the end of this beam to make it fit snugly where it's got to go. The first one is the pointiness of the boat, the shape. So we get the sliding bevel, lay it on the back of the beam, hold that nice and tight, then bring it up, transfer it from the little mark we made first off. And then on the other face we need the flare. Pick up this flat face that's in here with the bevel, transfer that angle onto the beam. See it? That's not too bad, is it? Well, that's ready now for a final sand up. The bevel's on the bottom corner, a bit of a chamfer, some glue and a couple of screws. The whole point of dinghy cruising is to get away from it all. So by definition, dinghy cruisers are elusive. However, I've had a tip-off that veteran dinghy cruiser Len Wingfield is sailing from a desolate beach in Chichester. I find him about to launch his boat, which is surprisingly less sophisticated than Jean-Louis Grenier's. You've got quite a lot of stuff in here, haven't you?
Oh, we always have quite a lot of stuff, and believe it or not, I have far less than many people.
Really? Could you show us around
Yes,
the boat at all?
yes. In the bows, there's a limited amount of room because from this point is all buoyancy, and this stern tank is largely buoyancy. The stuff I've got in there, things like sleeping bags that are light anyway, so they virtually count as buoyancy. So, should I capsize, and it's always a risk, then it's quite easy to right it. Here I have repair material, torches, spare compass, charts, ordnance survey maps, which provide a material that the charts won't.
So where exactly do you sleep?
I sleep with my head at this end, so I just turn it round there, push it forward a bit,
Right.
and get my carry mat out, put it under the seat.
And then what's this up the front?
Up the front I just have the tent cover, which is a cheap polythene cover. I suppose it costs about £7 for the polythene.
Yeah.
White, so it lets the light through. Very waterproof, and I can put it away wet.
So it seems you've had this boat for years and years, and you've done loads of cruising really economically.
Oh yes, yes, it costs far less than yacht owning, about a tenth. And it's not only the money you save. With a dinghy there's all sorts of quiet places you can go and sleep for the night with a wildlife undisturbed all round you. It's very difficult to do that in a yacht.
Do you have an outboard?
No, I don't.
Right.
Because this boat is light enough to row.
So you've just got oars and a good anchor just in case everything stops?
Oh, 2 good anchors,
Right.
yes. The anchor is very important, as in Nelson's day, the anchor was the most important thing on a ship. The anchor will save a boat in bad conditions.
Oh, it's nice and warm, isn't it?
Yes.
So not having a fixed mooring means that you can decide to go pretty much anywhere in this.
Indeed, yes. I was on the east coast a fortnight ago, and even the northeast, the Farne Islands, anywhere you like, up to Scotland.
Pretty much the world's your oyster.
Indeed, yes.
Today, Len is sailing to meet other dinghy cruisers at a secluded bay. It's an occasional meeting of the Dinghy Cruising Association that get together now and again to chat about their adventures. On the way, Len negotiates the low hailing bridge, which involves dropping his mast and rowing under. We'll catch up with him later, but first, back to the workshop to finish off that deck beam. It's quite important that you take the corners off, not only so it looks nice, but also up in the forward end of the boat there's going to be a large buoyancy bag to stop the boat sinking, and you don't want any sharp corners on there wearing it away. So keep it nice and smooth, looking nice, and everyone's a winner. Right, this is our final dry fit. A couple of screws in there just to hold it. Quite pleased with that. So that's the foredeck pretty much done. There is a king plank to go in here, which is a board that runs right from the front through here, slots into here, and that supports the deck. It gives us somewhere to join our plywood deck on the centre, and also the tabernacle that holds the mast that sort of goes very close to this beam. It takes the drive of the sail into the boat and spreads it forward throughout the whole beam assembly. So that's pretty good, really. We've got the rest of the boat to finish off. A few beams down the back, these little half beams here. Once we've done that, we'll be ready to put the deck on. We're on Hayling Island, on a small nature reserve called the Kench. It's the perfect place for the Dinghy Cruising Association to have a meet. Several boats, all different shapes and sizes, have already anchored off the shore. And several hours after leaving the beach, Len is arriving at the Kench. You have a good trip, Len?
Yes.
Yeah? One boat that immediately caught my eye is this one, Lowly Worm 3. So did you build Lowly Worm?
I did, yes. Built it in Oxford, in the garden. 10 months.
Yeah.
It's quite big for a dinghy, 19 foot long, but only 5 foot wide.
And did you build the boat specifically for dinghy cruising?
I did, yeah. I'd sold a bigger boat, cruising boat, because Oxford was too far from the sea. And so this one gets trailed down.
Right.
And what this group does is absolutely fantastic, you know, just doing your own thing. I sail on my own almost always. Grandson this weekend, but that's not very often I come with somebody. And we just meet up, and so it's like a nice bunch of friends.
But perhaps the most surprising cruiser here is this tiny dinghy. Dave, you're in possibly the smallest dinghy here, which is a mirror dinghy.
That's right.
How long have you been using that for dinghy cruising?
I've had it about 7 years, and I very soon got into dinghy cruising.
Do you find it's big enough? 'Cause, I mean, it's not the largest boat around, is it?
Well, it's just about large enough for one.
Yeah.
It's very cramped, of course, but then you're thankful to climb into a tent.
Right, so do you sleep on the boat?
Yes, sleep on the boat,
right.
usually.
I've noticed you have an outboard. Why did you decide to get one of those?
Well, I found out I'd missed 1 or 2 cruises completely because I just couldn't get out of the harbour. Someone else had an outboard, so I thought I'll try.
Yeah.
And it just means at least you can get out of the harbour if there's no wind at all, or if you're a bit late on the tide. And also it takes away the worry of getting into a harbour. I mean, the old sailing ships would have to wait for the next tide or wait till the next day.
Yeah.
You know, we can't practically do this.
And you, I guess, have to get back to the office for a Monday morning.
Well, if I had a job, I would.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So have you done any particular modifications, apart from making a level platform to sleep on, to the dinghy?
I've made some stowage boxes because you need places to keep things. And you also need a few places to tie things on the boat as well, because all the equipment has to be tied down.
Another modification is this slot cut into the rudder. If Dave should fall overboard, this provides a useful step back onto the boat. Modifying a boat for dinghy cruising is one thing, but designing and building a new boat from scratch is another. But that's exactly what Keith Holdsworth did. How did you go about designing and building this?
It took me about 2 years to design on the computer and about 2 months to build. It was that easy really, because it's all simple shapes cut out of sheets of plywood, and it floated. And I sort of made some of it up as I went along. See, the actual rig itself was picked up in a jumble sail.
It looks like you've got pretty much like a nice double bed in the middle.
One of the main principles that I designed around was getting rid of the idea of the centreboard. Now, most dinghies have a centreboard to keep it on track when it's sailing into the wind.
Yeah.
But the centreboard case takes up so much space in the middle of the boat that it makes it difficult to use for camping. So what I've done is to get rid of the centreboard completely, put twin bilge keels on the bottom which keep it on track, and also when it dries out it doesn't lean over at an angle. Right. It dries out level.
Well, it obviously works because you could just slip in here and you can step out without getting your feet wet.
Precisely.
So what about cooking? Where do you cook in this one?
I've got a compartment aft here which I keep all my food and cooking materials in.
Ah, excellent.
Pull out boxes of food and away you go. You know, cup of tea within 5 minutes.
And she's also got a complete circular padded backrest.
Which is absolutely ideal for resting against when you're sailing, yes. This, out of interest, the bowsprit, you may recognise the shape of that. It is in fact a chair leg, and it has done the job wonderfully.
Isn't that lovely?
And in fact the mizzen sail and the jib, they are made out of a redundant window blind.
Oh really? Oh yes. A couple of little features there.
And they work absolutely perfectly.
As evening falls, all the cruisers put up their unique tents as they prepare for a night on board their boats. What a great bunch, that dinghy cruising lot. Mind you, you wouldn't catch me sleeping outside in a small boat like that. I'm staying in here. Night, Jim Bob. Night, Mary Ellen. Night, Tessa. Oh, it's right in my ear.